A while ago, chummers, I was asked to make a video that talks more in depth about rigging. I had one in the works, but took a year-long hiatus, and when I came back to it, I realized what I was working on was drag. But now that I'm back on the saddle again, I'm going to revisit that idea, especially since I've had some more time to review the rules and other people's advice on this subject. So with that said, I present to you all the ropes of rigging. First, let's review the basic requirements for rigging. You need a control rig. That's the cyberware that lets you merge your consciousness with a machine. This also doubles as a data jack, which comes in handy for smart link weapons, if you want one of those. If you're going to be doing rigging, you'll also need the appropriate pilot skills for whatever it is you're going to be jumping into, as well as the gunnery skill for any mounted weapons that it might have. And lastly, you need something to control, such as a drone or vehicle. This is the part of rigging that is ridiculously fun. There's two general schools of thought for rigging. You either pick one vehicle and drone that you're good at and modify it to hell and back, or you pick up a bunch of cheap drones and command a robot army. Since the core rulebook doesn't offer much rules on customizing vehicles beyond adding weapon mounts, we'll save that topic for when we cover Rigger 5.0, which does cover vehicle customizing. Though before we go any further, I want to briefly talk about the black trenchcoat and pink mohawk dichotomy, where black trenchcoat represents super professional black ops espionage, while pink mohawk is ridiculous and over the top. It's a contrast between taking Shadowrun seriously and never being found out, or just going nuts and hoping for refuge and audacity. What I'm about to describe to you is so far in the pink mohawk territory, it's like you smeared your hair with Stuart Semple's pinkest pink. For this video, we're going to look at controlling a robot army using just what's in the core book. If we're going to command an army of robots, we naturally need a lot of resources. We need to buy cyberware that lets us command our bots, a rigger command console to let us talk to all our bots at once, the bots themselves, software to enhance our bots, any guns and ammo our bots will have, and also a vehicle to carry our bots in. Rigging gets expensive. Cyberware and command consoles aren't something you want to skimp on. Cyberware costs not only new yen, but also essence, something you can't normally regain. For that reason, we have to be careful not to waste too much of it. But on the other hand, if we don't use magic, essence is just another resource to be spent. And the command console will also determine how many drones we can control, as well as how much software we can use, either for buffing our drone slave to our console, or helping protect us from pesky deckers. The control rig also grants its rating as a bonus to numerous things. The handling and acceleration of the vehicle you're jumped into, as well as the accuracy of any mounted weapons on your vehicle or drone. All of these are important, because they act as limits for rolls when using vehicles, drones, and the weapons on them. Meaning further, they let you possibly score more hits on a successful roll. You want a good control rig. Your rigger command console is also useful regardless of how many drones you're using. If you're jumped into a drone or vehicle wirelessly, you still have noise to contend with. Dice pool penalties for not being physically connected to your device. The RCC can help mitigate this some. Page 267 states that RCCs have a noise reduction and autosoft rating, and you can set what these are when you turn on your console. Though combined, they cannot exceed the rating of your console. Autosofts are similar to programs that deckers can use on their cyberdeck, with some cyberdeck programs even coming as separate command console versions. Your console's autosoft rating is how many of these you can use at once. So you have sort of a balancing act between noise reduction or how much software you want. If you've got a drone that isn't using any of their own autosofts, then if they're slave to your rigger command console, you can have them run compatible autosofts from that instead. So, with all that in mind, we're going to go with a control rig with a rating of 2 for a cost of 97,000 new yen. This is the strongest one we can normally start the game with. And for our command console, we'll go with the Vulcan Liege Lord, 66,000 new yen. It has a rating of 5 and thus allows us to slave and control up to 15 drones at once. Next, we'll get a vehicle, because even though we're going for an army of robots, we'll still need some method of transporting them, or our team, or both. Because somebody leading a parade of robots is going to draw the wrong kind of attention. For this, we're going to go with the GMC Bulldog, an armored delivery van that can seat 6 people, or for our purposes, ourselves and a bunch of drones. We'll need a rigger interface for the van, and just so that it's not completely helpless, we can also outfit it with 2 weapon mounts, each with a Colt M23 assault rifle and 200 rounds. You can eschew the weapon mounts and guns if you're feeling cheap. After all, you'll have an army of drones in the backseat of this thing. The total cost of this setup, with all the bells and whistles, is 42,900 new yen. Now, the fun part, acquiring our drones. Our rigger command console lets us issue an order to up to 15 drones at once, so naturally, we should see about getting 15 cheap drones. With guns. The Nissan Doberman is a good choice, since it's relatively cheap, at 5,000 new yen per drone, and comes with a built-in weapon mount to boot. So all we need to buy next is whatever gun we want to outfit them with, and some software so they can run it. Once again, I'm going to spring for the Colt M23 and 200 rounds per Doberman. Because we don't want the best, we want cheap. In order for a drone to be able to use a weapon, they need an autosoft that'll instruct them on how to fire that specific gun. For that, we can either buy a single autosoft to use on our rigger command console, or we can buy an individual one for each Doberman. In this case, we'll go with the cheap method of buying just one autosoft for our RCC, since the drones will be slave to that, and can thus use that one autosoft. Regarding the cost of autosofts, however, that's something you might have trouble finding in the book, primarily because it wasn't included, and had to be errataed in. According to this post I found on RPG Stack Exchange, the cost is the rating of the autosoft times 500, and an availability of double its rating. This is not a thing to skimp on either, so we'll go for the most expensive option, a rating 6 Colt M23 targeting autosoft at 3,000. This makes our pack of Dobermans weigh in at about 5,950 new yen per, and if we go with 15 of them, that's a grand total of 89,250 new yen, plus another 3,000 for our top-of-the-line software so that they can use their guns. This makes our grand total for our pack of gun-wielding dog-brained robots 298,150 new yen. Rigging gets expensive. But with a setup like this, we'll be good for a while. We'll need to go with priority A for resources, but we'll still have some leftovers for necessities like fake sins, armor, a gun for ourselves, and maybe a few other drones so that we're not a one-trick pony. The other option is just to go with some not-so-great cyberware, but I don't recommend that. Or we can go with fewer dobies, which I don't want to do. Next, skills and attributes. Our most important skills will be gunnery and pilot groundcraft. These will be used when we're jumped into one of the Dobermans or the van, for firing and driving respectively. If you put both of these skills at their max possible starting rating of 6, you'll need 12 skill points. Having a rating of E gives you 18, an ample amount of points to cover this. However, just because Shadowrun is a game that rewards specialization doesn't mean you can ignore having other skills. A pack of Doberman drones may be a tough thing to respond to, but all you need is one run where that won't work for you to wind up fragged in a gutter somewhere. Similarly, attributes are another area you don't necessarily need much. Reaction for groundcraft piloting, and agility for gunnery. You can spend most of your time in VR to jump into and issue orders to your drones, so having a high reaction and intuition isn't exactly necessary. The maximum and starting values for agility and reaction don't deviate much between meta types, so as with skills, you can afford to skimp a little bit here too. Still, the other attributes can come in handy, such as logic if you decide to pick up the automotive repair skill, or body if you want to be able to resist biofeedback from a vehicle you jumped into taking damage. Willpower is another one to consider as well, since that'll help fight off any deckers that want to foil your plans. In the case of skills and attributes, you can technically afford to take a low priority, since there's only 2 skills and 3 attributes that you really need. If you decide to do that though, I suggest you have a really good reason for trying that. Because, as I said earlier, having a few secondary fallback abilities is a good idea in Shadowrun. You might somehow wind up without your drones, so being able to fight without them could be useful. Or you might need to explain to a security guard why you've got a van loaded with so many Dobermans that have machine guns, and in that moment, you'll wish you had some charisma and social skills. As I mentioned earlier, metatype doesn't cause too much variation in starting and max attributes that you'll need as a rigger, so you're more or less free to choose whichever of these that you want. However, I do recommend taking an E for magic to make yourself mundane. Being a rigger requires cyberware, which makes magic a bit more of a challenge due to essence loss. If you want a metatype besides human though, by all means. Aside from resources, you don't need very many high priorities, so you can feasibly pull this off with any metatype. Rigging leaves a lot open for you, but the key thing to remember is this. If you choose this role, you'll most likely be the getaway driver, and you'll also need to pull double duty as another damage dealer if you decide to go in loud. Which is why I opted to have 15 Dobermans. Your rigger command console lets you issue a command to one, some, or all of the drones you have slaved to it, and it also allows you to jump between them quickly. Though the drone uses its own software called a pilot program that is affectionately, or perhaps mockingly, referred to as a dog brain. They can obey simple commands like fire at this target or move to this position, but more complex orders could end up confusing it. Drones have a pilot rating that indicate just how smart their dog brains are, and if they're given a complicated or ambiguous command, you roll double their pilot rating to see if they can figure out what you meant. Once the pack of Dobies is in position and have a clean shot at their target, you just send the command to fire, and on their next initiative pass, they'll start spitting out lead. The roll for a drone using a weapon is their pilot rating plus their autosoft, limited by the accuracy of the gun, which means each one of the puppers is going to roll 9 dice, 3 pilot rating, and 6 for the autosoft, with a maximum of 6 hits on each attack roll, and there's 15 of them, each making this roll. If you thought Exalted or Double Cross was an orgy of dice, just wait for a moment like this to happen in Shadowrun. On the flip side to this madness, something we didn't cover with this build was how riggers also have plenty of stealth and infiltration options. Just like in the real world, flying drones are available, and great for getting a bird's eye view of places. There's also plenty of autosofts that aid drones in knowing how to operate quietly. Plus, what Shadowrun has that is still in the realm of speculative fiction for us is this: eyeball and even insect-sized drones. The perfect addition to your arsenal if you don't like the color pink, especially in your hair. Or if you want to make things even crazier, there's also bipedal drones that fight with sword arms. This video was just a taste of the fun to be had with drones and vehicles in Shadowrun. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting or helpful, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about Shadowrun or other tabletop RPGs, hit subscribe. So, with all that said, I am Aron der Schädel. Watch your back, shoot straight, conserve ammo, and never, ever cut a deal with a dragon.